Here are our four panel members. His Excellency Dan Mulhall, Irish Ambassador to London. Tom French, poet from County Tipperary and County Kilkenny. Fergal Keane, BBC Correspondent and Professorial Fellow here at the Institute of Irish Studies. And Martin Dyar, a poet and playwright from County Mayo.
I've always loved Yeats. I grew up with parents who were actors and who read the works of Yeats to me when I was a child. And then at school, I was fortunate enough to have some really good English teachers who further deepened my, not just my love, but my understanding of what Yeats was about. And that ran through his engagement with nationalist politics, his philosophical ideas, and of course his extraordinarily passionate attachment, not so much to the person of Maud Gonne, but to the idea of Maud Gonne. And the poem that I've chosen is When You Were Old. I love this poem. It's the nicest love poem that I've ever come across. When you were old and grey and full of sleep, and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false or true. But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars.
So I've chosen Cuchulainn Comforted, a poem that Yeats wrote, we believe, about 3 weeks before he died. So it sort of is a swan song, and it's difficult not to look at it as a point in Yeats' writing life where he's summarising his system, his aesthetic system, his philosophical system, and at the same time singing as loudly as he can. And what I love about it is the fact that it's a poem of crossing into the spirit world, one of Yeats's fixations throughout his life, but all the more, I suppose, all the more potent, all the more dramatic for the fact that it was written at the very end of his life.
Well, I have two favourite Yeats poems. One is one of the early lyrics, which most people would know. I will arise and go now and go to Innisfree, in a small cabin build there, clay and wattle made, 9 bean was what I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the Bealoud glade. That's the kind of early Yeats poem that most people respond to and would tend to know. I also like the later poems, especially the ones that deal with Irish history, like, for example, Easter 1916, with that wonderful refrain, "A terrible beauty is born." Yeats was very good at analysing and presenting Irish history. As a diplomat, I find that a very useful instrument to have in order to explain Ireland to people from outside the country who are interested in our literature but may know very little about our history.
Once more the storm is howling, and half hid under this cradle hood and coverlid, my child sleeps on. Those are the first 3 lines of a prayer for my daughter, and what's beautiful about it is that it's associated in my mind with a photograph of Yeats sitting in his garden, holding the child and looking into her face. He's 53, it's 1919, and he's looking into her face with eyes, with brand new eyes. And the poem ends with a beautiful moment of lift and joy and unexpected reward, where his life has changed.
We staged the event with our 4 speakers, the Ambassador, 2 poets, and Fergal Keane, to celebrate Yeats's 150th birthday. He was born in June 1865, and he's Ireland's greatest poet. His reputation has stood the test of time, not just in Ireland, but across the world. He's one of the great writers of beautiful romantic lyrics on the one hand, searing political poems on the other, and then poems about old age and growing. And he's just a marvellous poet, and it was important to us to celebrate his work.